held on Friday at 12:02 p.m. And there was a lot of comments on social media that the four of us were objecting to this meeting. So I'm just going to give a little background on what occurred so that the community and the residents know. At 1:11 p.m., Bill Grindle sent an email. I don't believe a meeting is necessary, and in any event, I had an ARC meeting that evening. Cindy at 1:34 p.m. While I understand that you, Jared and Jim, are within your rights to call a special meeting, I don't see the rationale since it's the day before a regular meeting, especially when the agenda for Wednesday's meeting hasn't been published yet. Bill is unavailable. I think Charles will still be out of town on business since he already indicated that he's hoping to be able to attend in person on Wednesday. And I'm pretty sure David will be out of town as well. It would make more sense to me anyway to add this as a discussion item, top of the list, right below the MTAG Town Hall discussion, knowing the meeting might last a little longer. Can I hear from others, please? David, 1:50 p.m. Thanks for the follow-up on the request for the special meeting. I see no need for a special meeting. The follow-up on the request made can be added to regular agenda for Wednesday, regularly scheduled meeting. I think adding these items to Wednesday's meeting is a better use of the time of staff and the volunteer board. In addition, I will be coming back into town for Wednesday's meeting and will not be available for an additional meeting next week. 2:06 p.m. I'm fine with waiting until Wednesday's meeting. That was me. Lauren sent an email, said that we had enough time to notice the email because it was asked if there was enough time to notice it. She said, yes, we had enough time. I sent an email at 2 p.m. That's good, but is Roger and Tom even available? I'm fine with Wednesday. Cindy, please check if Tom and Roger are available either Tuesday or Wednesday. That may be the deciding factor. Okay, Lauren sent an email at 2:34 p.m. with an invite. Tom and Roger were available. No, Tom and Lauren sent the email. Tom and Roger are available. She will schedule the meeting. 2:40 p.m. an invite was sent to the 6:07 p.m. 2:40 p.m. the invite was sent to the board. I accepted my invitation at 4:28 p.m. for the meeting because I had an appointment at a doctor that I had to change. Jared's comment on social media was, well, we should have our calendar, but I'm not quoting word for word.
I'm about to, so go ahead.
Okay. We should have had our calendar cleared because there was a CROA/finance meeting. But I had an appointment and I waited from the time the invitation was sent out to the time I was changed my appointment to 4:28 p.m. So nobody really objected. We were just stating what may have occurred other than us being here tonight. But we're here. We fixed it and we made it work. David is still away and Bill is right next door. So there was no objection. The way it sounds on social media that we're against doing this. Thank you.
But just to be clear, all of you did say that you do not think that we should have this meeting tonight,
We
correct?
don't have to agree on it. We didn't object.
I'm just asking
I
a
made
question.
it work. Jim, I
You
made
were-
it work so I can be here tonight.
Yeah, you
didn't
actually had the
object.
least to say, and I appreciate that.
Well, I tried to have.
Cindy was very clear about
I don't think.
lecturing us about
wasn't
why we
lecturing.
shouldn't do it.
If I may, we're
Pictures
8 minutes,
is irrelevant.
we're 8 minutes and we've discussed nothing about the
Right.
playground. activities.
But it needs to be known to the community that we did not
This isn't-
object.
The 1 hour meeting,
That's right.
I'm saying we need to talk.
But-
about the playground.
Obviously, there was communication on social media with the three of you.
Cindy, can you
Yes.
move the meeting along?
Yeah.
please? Thank you.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I think, Jared, you okay?
I was gonna read, because she chose to read every email except my email requesting this and why this was necessary, but I think that's
I
something.
hit highlight.
I think it's fairly clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm okay. We can move on.
Great.
I've got a lot to
So-
say, so let's move along.
What's it, 10 minutes after 6? We will call the meeting to order. We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion.
Gary, second. Celia. All in favor?
Okay.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Owners' comments. Did anybody, kind of, other than there's a question from audience here? No. So there's no owner comment?
Yes,
She wrote one down.
So
if we sign in. there's
This is Katie. No, this is
Write it
Katie.
down.
No, if you put a check mark up there.
Sorry, is that?
Is there anybody else that's
So she wants to make a comment.
And
She
who's
is
that?
very-
Oh, okay.
you want to speak as well?
I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw. All righty, go ahead.
Microphone.
Okay.
Read it. You read it?
Do you want me to read your
Yeah,
question
yeah.
first, Katie? Okay. What's causing the delay in the permitting?
Get to that when Roger's talking about.
Is that okay, Katie? That's
Yeah.
part of her, she's gonna address. Okay, Muriel, you wanna go next?
First off, Jared, I want to say thank you. This has been 8 months in the making to have the residents speak their mind on this. We spent 8 minutes of a PYA by board members. Enough. Put, Celia, don't look that way. Put the kids first at this point. 8 months of this is ridiculous. And to sit 8 minutes and listen to this banter is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Put us first. Stop your PYA. Stop your fighting amongst yourselves. All right? That's all we're asking. First and foremost, we're talking about both playgrounds. I don't know what's going on with Long Meadow, but I do know Spring Park has been a joke since December. I have posted on social media starting at the end of March and the slow progress. And we're here tonight to talk about it? Come on, where have you been? And I don't want finger pointings. It was the past president. We're here today and we need resolution that is so far overdue. Do you understand that? I hope you do. We get an email yesterday. The Spring Park utility lines have been marked. I guess it was done by artificial intelligence because guess what? As of this morning, there are still no flags for the utilities. Okay? You're talking about last board meeting. There's 2 pieces of equipment missing. Have they been found? Or what's that going to cost us? You said it was 90% installed. Yet I see here, you're saying bids have been solicited for concrete removal, artificial turf, and underlayment. Does that mean there's going to be another bid for the completion of installation? Where's the details? Where are the details? You treat us like we're idiots. Guess what? We're professionals. We know the details. You talk about removing concrete. The concrete's been there for 25 years. Why do you have to remove it now? Why was that a surprise to you? Who's going to pay the cost for the damage to the sidewalk and the landscaping? Anybody take a, you look confused, Cindy. You told me you walked around. You didn't notice it? Come on.
So the concrete in the landscape?
Yes, in
Concrete,
Spring Park,
I
the
know. I went to
sidewalk.
check, I went to check the lock that you said.
No, you told me you walked around the park the day before.
That would be Celia.
No, you told me
I
and
don't
my
walk
husband.
around the park.
Yes, you told me you walked around. the project
Okay,
manager.
I walked around. Not me.
Yes.
That's your 3 minutes. That's your 3 minutes, Miriam. I'm sorry. Shelley, you'll be next.
Shelley, 1121 Indigo Drive. So I understand everything that she said, and my question is twofold. First of all, I understand that we're going to say that the previous board had something to do with the fact that there was no contract and that we are out the $125,000. Is that still the case?
That's what we're discussing tonight.
Okay.
That's part of this whole.
And then the other thing is, to Celia's point, after reading all of the emails, the email that you forgot to read was the one where you told him he didn't need an update daily, weekly, or whatever.
I didn't.
And
That had nothing to do
That
with
was
it.
the board did.
Well,
Which I call it.
That wasn't part of that change that she's reading.
I'm just gonna call it as a whole. This was what was said, and this is what is frustrating. And I'm gonna address again tomorrow night. Another issue that you and I have, but it's the same issue that this board has. You all are not listening.
I'm
All
sorry.
of you,
I have
the
my-
board. The board is not listening. You don't hear us. You call us social media people. We are on social media because there are 7,000 people on the back porch that get the same message. We're educated people. We're people with degrees. We're people with contacts that you guys could actually use as a resource, but you choose not to. You choose to sit up here and fight, and every month and every meeting is the same. And it's, you look like fools. Yeah. So I'll just.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else?
Yeah, I would.
Sure.
I wasn't gonna. Because I try to keep quiet. And I'm done keeping quiet. Because this is a farce. Right, you say that the Spring Park playground is 90% complete. I'm gonna point out to you from my professional background of 40 years in industry, 20 years of teaching business at the second largest university in the United States, and an entire career built around engineering and process. The major piece of equipment in Spring Park is a lawsuit waiting to happen. It's been installed 2.5, too high from spec. The major slides on that are supported by a 3/4 inch piece of tubular steel. No support under the slides. Any one of you, from the smallest to the largest, if they sat on the bottom of that slide and just wiggled for 10 minutes, would break that support. Are you prepared for the lawsuit from the first child who was injured in that park? Because it will happen. The manufacturer of the equipment has pictures on their website of a proper install. Any one of you can go out to their website and look at the pictures and know that is an absolute abomination. If you were to try and grade, worked in a construction company when I was paying my way through college. If you were going to try to grade that surface so that you mitigate the safety risk on those slides, you'd have to install drainage around the entire park because you'd create a hill that was so high, you would flood the Spring Park pool. That needs to be ripped out, reinstalled from the get-go. If it continues to be installed the way it is now, you're going to get sued. And you're going to lose big time. Why am I concerned? Because I'm an owner. When they sue you, they take money out of my pocket. I work my ass off for 40 some odd years to get to where I am. You don't get to take my money without my say. But if you get sued, guess who else is going to sue you? Me.
I think he's 100% correct. I think he's accurate. The equipment is, I think,
Well, we're gonna
I
get
think,
to it.
oh yeah, I really think he's 100% correct with the installation of the equipment. Thank you, Mr. Quinn.
Anybody else? Anybody? All righty. Lauren, you want to start?
I think
Well, do you want to do an update from Tom about the latest?
Sure, we can do that. To Mr. Quinn's point. Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna back up just a second because I don't want to assume that anybody knows anything, knows everything about what's happened. So as you probably do know, and I know as the board knows,
Which reminds me, in case there's someone here who doesn't know who this is Tom Slayton. He's our attorney.
yeah, I'm sorry, I should have introduced myself first. My name's Tom Slayton. I'm an attorney. I've been representing your association for many years. All I do is represent homeowner and condominium associations, including Celebration Residential Owners Association, CROA, and CJC. I was brought into this issue probably mid to late May of this year. And one of the reasons why was because Phoenix Works, the company that was hired last year to do both parks, wasn't doing what they were contracted to do. And as you've expressed to the board, as the board has seen and as management has seen, the work wasn't getting done. And as a result, the board rightly decided to put Phoenix Works on notice that they had 30 days to do the work. And so for that, I issued a notice from my office stating that they had 30 days to finish the work that they've been dragging their feet on. After the 30 days had expired, Phoenix Works said, or during the time of the 30 days and a little bit after, Phoenix Works gave some excuses and reasons for why they couldn't finish the work during that 30-day period. The board exercised as much patience as they possibly could with the excuses, with the additional promises, and allowed a little bit more time to pass to see if they could finish the work, because it was that or bring in another contractor. Phoenix Works exhausted the board's collective patience with them. And therefore, on July 21st, we issued through my office a notice of cancellation, telling Phoenix Works, okay, your time is up. You're done. Don't do any more work. Don't come onto the property. We're going to bring somebody else in and we're going to finish the job. So that's the notice to them. For whatever reason, Phoenix Works decided to ignore that notice, and they had some additional work done. And I think it's fair to say that that work was as rushed and as rough as I think the gentleman here described, and it's what other board members and management have seen. There's obviously concerns with the work on one part and then the incomplete work on the other one. After doing this rush job, which I'm not sure Phoenix Works did, because there's actually a permit and a notice to owner from another contractor, which I'll call Phoenix Works' subcontractor, because how else could they have gotten out there? After that was done, Phoenix Works decided that it would demand payment in full for its contracts, even though it had not done the work properly and had incomplete work. Well, we pushed back on that and said, well, that's ridiculous. Identified some of the issues and repeated, your contract was terminated. We're going to bring somebody else in, and we're going to look to deduct whatever we have to pay these other companies to finish the work and to finish it properly. Well, in response to that, we got a threat that Phoenix Works was going to lien both of your parts. Now, there's a thing called a contractor's lien. If you hire a company to do work on your house and you have the right to put a lien on your property to secure payment. Well, it's the same thing here. They have the right to do it. Fortunately, the difference for us is we're not looking to sell the common areas. So if they put a lien on the property, it's not a significant issue, although it will result later on, if we can't resolve it, with a possible lien foreclosure by them, which we would fight. And for all the reasons that you know, and I'll talk about that in a second. So I respond with, I need to know who your subcontractors are, because you obviously had somebody else out here and we might be responsible for paying them. I need a release of lien from them in order to be sure that we're not going to pay Phoenix Works for anything and then get double charged from the subcontractor. And under the Florida construction law, that can happen. They denied that they first said that they were going to get the releases of lien. Then they said there's no point in doing it. And then they denied that there were any subcontractors or suppliers that hadn't been paid. And lo and behold, Lauren's team pulled out the permit and the notice to owner of the subcontractor. So we know that that's not true. And so based upon that, we said, we're not paying. So yesterday, late yesterday, and I got it today, I just shared it with the board like an hour or so ago. So I apologize if you hadn't had a chance to see it, but they recorded a lien, they meaning Phoenix Works recorded a lien against both parks. And that means that they have a year to file suit to try to do anything. But you have all the defenses that you would have had whether they filed a lien or not. And by that, I mean, you terminated the contract before they tried to finish the work. So they were already on notice of that. The work that they did is incomplete, which you're not supposed to be able to pursue a lien and foreclose on it without completing the work. The work is defective, as you all have seen. You're not happy with the condition of it. Nobody is. Then there's specific mechanics lien law or contractor lien defenses. They're technical and it's not worth getting into, but there are some issues with the process and procedure, including sending me an affidavit saying that they paid everybody when we know that we don't have a release of lien from the subcontractor. So in the legal end of it, that's where you are. And as I understand it, I'm going to defer back to Lauren and the board on this. The reason why you're looking for another contractor is because you don't have any confidence that Phoenix Works can or should do the work. You terminated the contract after giving them more time than they ever deserve. And by doing that, you're looking at bringing somebody else in to do the work. And then whatever that costs you, you will set off against what you might owe Phoenix Works, what they would argue you would owe them. Exactly how much you owe them, I mean, that's debatable. You may not owe them anything. Arguably, they may owe you after they did such a bad job. But that's a little bit in the weeds of it. So if you're asking questions like, well, if we're going to bring somebody else in, who's it going to cost? Some of it at least is going to be offset against what we were supposed to pay Phoenix Works if they had done what they had contracted to do. So that's where we stand legally. As of yesterday, there is a lien on both of the parks. It doesn't affect anybody's use. Everybody's free to use it if it gets finished. Safety use, right? But at this point, I just wanted to reassure you that just because of the lien like this, other than it starts a clock from today for 1 year for them to have to file court action if they chose to, if they thought they could overcome all the issues that you've personally seen, in which, from the description and from everything else, I think we'd agree the work is not done and it's not done well.
Lauren, because Tom kind of alluded to it, what was the total contract price and how much have we actually paid?
You paid your initial down payment, which was half for Spring Park Playground. The total cost was $229,650. So you paid them $114,825.
That's Spring Park or that's for the both?
That's for Spring Park. Long Meadow.
Lauren, that was for parks and services, right?
Yeah, that's park services and permitting.
I think it was like a little over 300 something thousand dollars.
For Long Meadow, it's $166 total. So 83,000 is what you paid.
We have a ballpark figure in terms of how much parts that we have
So we,
ownership of.
I will say, we asked at the executive session to get an itemized list from the manufacturer, not from Phoenix Works.
Mhm.
You requested that and they have not provided that.
Phoenix Works also has not given us the itemized list of what they have in their container.
It still needs to go.
It still needs to come back to us.
what is their, position on any ownership of the equipment that's been installed?
So their communications to me were, we need to make arrangements to turn over the equipment. That's been their communication. And they haven't done that.
When was that?
That's in the emails that I shared with you. The last email, let me see.
Would you take a clarification question
Fine, please, look up.
to the attorney, please?
Yes.
Sir, you've
Wait, he's
mentioned,
looking for something. Let him-
He asked me for a date on an email. That was before I know it was before it was last week. And then I forwarded it to Lauren to let her know that they were still looking to turn it over. I don't have the date right in front of me, unfortunately, but it's within that email chain.
On their point, has there been a decision made not to copy at least two of us that have requested forwarding emails?
No,
I haven't received any, other than the 2 emails on this, I haven't received anything from your firm since April 7th, when we agreed to do that. So I need residents to know that I am completely unaware of a firsthand knowledge of what's going on from a legal perspective with CROA. So we have to do something to fix that.
well, some of the emails that I'm sharing or discussing right now are attached to the summaries. So if you look at the summaries that I share once a week, many of the emails in the email chains are attached to it. Now, sometimes I'm waiting a few days. If I have a discussion or an email with Phoenix Works on a Thursday, I'm usually expecting a response, which I've gotten, the next day. And then it's easier to summarize it in the Monday email to you all. Or, for example, I sent the summary this morning because a lot was going on.
No,
and I
we're
wanted
not
to update.
questioning the summaries.
Oh, okay.
Or that. We're questioning, we asked to be CC'd or BCC'd when it went out, because we did not want to be surprised as board members because information gets around in this town.
Okay, so specifically to CCing or BCCing, I don't recall being asked to be CC'd or BCC'd. My request from you all was give you a copy of the communications with whoever. And the reason why I have to be careful with, the Florida Bar guides us as attorneys not to CC or BCC our client or an attorney's client on communications to the attorney. What they say is there's too great of a risk of an accidental reply. So
Okay.
I agree that if you all, as the board, want to receive an email promptly after I've sent it,
Forward the email.
That's
You can
fine.
forward the email.
the forwarding is fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes I've waited for 2 reasons. One is because it's going to get more information if I get the response. And 2, sometimes the emails need a little bit of context. And so if I've had a phone call in between or something like that, I like to write out, and you've seen this before. I've made a couple
Yeah,
comments before as I forward the email. If the consensus of the board is, yeah, just send us everything, I'll still put a context to it if I can, if it's necessary. But I'd like to avoid CCing or BCCing because the Florida Bar guides us not to do that.
Yeah, that didn't come up because obviously your perception of what was agreed to was different from ours.
Yeah, I just thought you just wanted a copy of it, but not necessarily a CC. or
But
BCC.
that's not even happening though. You're not,
In the summary,
I'm
he's
saying,
putting some in.
yeah, so if it's a summary or like today, when I got the links, I'm just gonna send it to you because this is topical for
Right.
today's meeting. But yes, there's certain events that are going on where I can tell that something else is gonna happen. I'm just waiting to accumulate. I can just send it to you, but I thought it might be more helpful if I waited a little bit and then send it to you all.
No, these are the summaries that are included in the Monday.
It's in there,
magnets,
it's
right?
in your Monday report.
It's in the
all
Monday
of these.
Yeah.
communications.
Yeah, so everything you see that I'm talking about today with Phoenix Works' attorney is either copied in this one and attached to it with the email chain or in the previous one. Or then right before the last meeting, I think I shared some stuff.
Okay, so before, because I was on the CCDD liaison, things were sent And a couple hours later, I was in front of the CCD board and their legal representative. I had no idea what the content of that letter was a week. So is this something that you're saying every week you're going to put every email that we would have been copied on had we received what we thought we were asking for, which was we want to know when you send it. Obviously, didn't know the legal ramifications of doing CC or BCC. So a forward would be the same thing, but a fairly immediate forward. This isn't really the equivalent of that. And, you know, so sometimes you may think, well, why do I even need to do this? Because this is going to happen. This is going to happen. But, you know, none of us can predict what's going to happen. We just want to be informed. We're not, at least I'm not getting them so I can call you up and tell you what to do. I just want to have it so I know what's going on when it's going on.
I understand.
I'm confused. Jim, you brought up the CCDD. Are you asking, when you're asking for the emails that he sends on our behalf, are you talking just about the playgrounds? Or are you talking about anything that's?
No, I'm going back to our original discussion, which was not about the playgrounds. It was before that. And we requested it and we had most of the board say, we don't need to do that. No, no, no. And then I believe it was just Jared and I who finally said, well, okay, if you guys don't want to get it, that's fine, but we would like to get it.
So any piece of, any correspondence that he has, that has anything to do with CROA business is what you would.
No, we were very clear. Anything that went to a third party.
Third parties is the key.
Yeah.
Right, because you're already getting,
about.
yeah, because you're already getting communications internally.
Of course.
So, for example, if I had a homeowner exchange, and so I shared the letter and the email with them. But certainly, that's fine. I understand your request. The original request I read to mean send it to you when it was appropriate. I just deemed it to be more appropriate to send it a few days later. You prefer to have it more timely because, and I didn't know that you were meeting with the CCTV.
Well, I don't know when that's gonna, when the situations are gonna come
I'm
up.
happy to share it with you.
Yeah, you're obviously not consulting an event calendar when you
No, I'm
write your
not.
emails.
So I understand your
So I
request.
totally
I'm happy
understand that.
to honor your request as I understand it, yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Before we move on, Muriel, do you still have a question?
I had a clarification for the attorney. You had mentioned contract with Phoenix Works between the town. We were told as residents there was not a contract. It was just an agreement. So I'd like a little bit of more information. Was there a letter of agreement or is there a legal contract?
Lauren, can you bring that up too? Do you have that handy, the actual proposal that was signed, just for everyone?
Yeah, so as she brings it up, there are two proposals. Right, there's two written proposals. So you can call it an agreement, you can call it a contract. I know some people treat it a little bit differently, but if I have a written document that one side proposes and the other side agrees to, and the payment of the initial down payment is consent or agreement to the proposal, then both sides have entered into a contract that's enforceable. So when we got the proposal, the request was for an initial down payment of half. CROA makes that initial down payment. That's a written agreement. That's a contract. It's enforceable in court. Oh, no, there's not.
And there were no terms to the contract.
There's some terms. There's enough terms that, I mean, it says playground structure and individual play items has a quoted price. Engineering drawings for permit, freight cost, installation of equipment, dumpster fees.
We did this,
3 to 4 inches.
this was not through an RFP, or was this through just a bid?
So there were 3 bids gathered,
Not an RFP.
not an RFP. There were 3 bids from 3 different companies. Jam and Play was one. I can't remember what the third one was. And then Phoenix Works came in at the tail end because there was initial sticker price for the Jam and Play. Because I think for Spring Park, they came in at almost 400. For Long Meadow, they came in at around 250-ish. And then the other one was in the middle. And then Phoenix was a resounding lowest price.
And we didn't take it because it was the lowest price necessarily. I believe they were a trusted vendor at the time who had done many successful projects.
At the time, they were
At the
doing
time.
a lot of work in the community and they were doing it well.
Yes,
So I mean, it was a price and a trusted vendor piece to it.
yeah, and I think that
In
was probably
hindsight.
one of the reasons that potentially, I don't know, because I wasn't aware of it either way, unfortunately, being a newbie, that we might not have wanted to spend the money, no offense, on legal dues to negotiate a contract, right? Potentially.
Potentially. I don't know what the determining factor was behind the decision that I was given, so.
Okay,
I-
yep.
I think the clarification here is that a contract an average person would think where two parties sign and there's all the terms and conditions, that did not exist for this. Contract in the court of law is what this document is here. If you, can you scroll down to the bottom of this? I mean, they say this is what we're gonna do. The president signed it at the time. That's a contract as far as Tom is concerned. The rest of us, not so much, but that's kind of the circumstance here.
Typically, there would be some more protections. There would be standard boilerplate language, right? That's what we're, I think, accustomed to when we talk about these types of things. So not to belabor this point, but it is important just to paint the why are we here, unfortunately.
Can I ask a question too? There is a boilerplate contract that we used to use. Is there a reason that we stopped using it?
We still use it for everything, for most everything else. When we were in the go fast and fix stuff era, there were some items where I was given directive that was not necessary right now to move the
Right, but
process.
just to also be clear on that, we have a template. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I vote, yeah.
It's not accepted right away. There's a back and forth between the lawyers.
Deviations, yeah, there's red line.
You
Yeah.
have a boilerplate standard conditions template that I've approved for most work. It doesn't apply to everything, but most work it does apply to. One of the standard provisions in there is how to get out of the contract.
Yeah, the boilerplate part is just, it's gonna start, it's between this party and this party, it's gonna start here and then it's here for this price, blah, 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 blah. And then there's exhibits, one that would show the scope, like you're saying, and then, what we're gonna get for our money, basically.
Right, whether we agreed with the decision that was made on that and that Lauren carried out, I just wanted to have both sides of it, which is a respected vendor. We wanted to try to bring things back up. There were a lot of complaints about how things were really run down and not looking good, and that was the focus for that. I think there were a lot of things that were fixed. This was obviously a casualty, potentially, of going too fast. Totally get that, but that's no reason to trash that whole approach.
What do you mean trash the whole code?
Go fast and fix it. I wouldn't say this was in go fast and fix it because there hasn't been a single thing about this that's been fast. So this-
There's nothing that's been fast about it. You're absolutely right.
Well, if you-
But what- What, did they did at one point use an excuse. I remember last year, it was maybe a verbal conversation. They did use the excuse that they didn't know they had to get the engineer designs approved and all of that. So then when I pulled the proposal, it showed that they charged us for it. So obviously they knew that they had to get all of this stuff.
There were a laundry list of
And
excuses.
so snowballed to where we are tonight.
Correct.
They had some personnel issues, correct?
It appears so.
And I think we're all in agreement as board members that this needs to be fixed for the community.
That's something I can agree with you on every day of the week.
How do
So,
we fix it? How do we fix
we
it?
need to fix it. We need to make it
After
safe
8
for the
months, you
children.
need to fix it.
So, I mean, this where I would, and Roger, do you want to start talking about this is where we're at and this is where,
Yeah, so, we had, originally a quote from Jam and Play, another playground expert, and then we had the quote from Phoenix Works. It was decided to go with Phoenix Works. And now we're these many months into it with the mess that we have. I reached out to Jam and Play, who was one of the original vendors, talked to Sandra. Sandra's the owner and the president of the company. And I asked a couple of things of her. One, could she be a project manager for us? And I think Grand Manor's looking at this, wants to make some amends, and we're interested in financially contributing towards any type of project management cost that's outside the scope of work. So for example, navigating the permitting process, navigating RFP process, there's going to be some added costs that maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise. Corbin and Stacy all agree that that's something we could contribute to. Sandra has a company that does everything in-house, as you know, because she already bid one for it. And she scheduled her team to come mostly to really educate us on what the state of the condition is now of the playgrounds, and then what would need to happen next. I appreciate the comment about the 90% complete. I think we absolutely can take that back. I'm not a playground expert, and Brian and I take the drawings that we got from playgroundequipment.com, the schematics that we got as part of the proposal, and we went out there and did a visual and said, okay, this was installed, that's in the ground, this is in the ground, and came up with a calculation. And it looked to us that it was a matter of installing some fixtures and some rope and some ladders and these kinds of things. And that's kind of was our guesstimate. Having brought Sandra's team in now, we're exactly what the gentleman said is completely true. One of the big concerns about the park that we learned when Larry came from Jam and Play is, one, why they didn't grade before installing the equipment, to now try to go in and grade after the equipment's installed. And to get the grade to be even, we're looking at having to potentially raise footers that are installed now to raise it up, and then other pieces of equipment potentially having to lower them down or build dirt or material up to a grade. And then also, I think at the time when Phoenix did the quote, maybe we the size of the underlaying, the paving, which all has to get removed as well. So we brought Sandra in, and there's what I need direction from the board is we have two paths we can go down. We can, Sandra has an in-house team. She's ready to go, put it on the schedule. She can get the project with her team going, or we go down the path, the original path of hire Sandra as an independent consultant, and she's going out to get the bids and the RFP for the turf and for the, well, primarily for the turf, because I do think how Sandra got back into the picture. I reached out to playgrounds.com, from whom we purchased the equipment. And when we were trying to get the an idea of what the inventory of the pieces and parts that are missing are, I asked them, who do you have a preferred vendor? Because we need someone who is familiar with playgroundequipment.com in terms of who's installed it and who can help us finish that install job. And Jam and Play is a preferred vendor with playgroundequipment.com. They came highly recommended. We also reached out to our CII network colleagues. Jam and Play came up as a preferred vendor for playgrounds as well. So that's how we got Jam and Play and Sandra involved. I've never worked with Jam and Play or Sandra. I don't know her personally. I've never done business with her. And it just purely was recommended to me by the manufacturer of the playground equipment and by our CII contacts. Plus, they had bid in the past.
So
These are what I had in my board packet from when we had the proposal. So there's actually a structure, a couple of structures at Long Meadows that aren't there. There's baby swing, or whatever you want to call this, that's not there. And Jared, you've been through that park, I don't know how many times. Are there only two swings? There are four together like that?
Yeah.
Inches as well, right?
That's a whole separate thing.
No, but this piece,
That is
which
not there.
a lot of residents are upset about, is not there. And then, well, I can't speak for what's at Spring Park because there's nothing there but that big unit, but are we getting what's on these
I
drawings
think
that
we're
we
getting into the
approved?
minutia.
Well,
No,
but all-
it's valid, but I think we need to.
But all we know is that, we did not get from Phoenix Works a complete set of diagrams and site plans.
But they're telling us Long Meadow is complete. We're missing a piece of equipment there.
Nor do we have from Phoenix Works a complete list of what they purchase. But what we do know, and what we did verify from the county, is that for the park, the footings have passed inspection. So you can.
Which
so-
part, both or?
Both parks, yeah. So I have a screenshot that I got from Kevin of the passing of the footer inspections for the park. So that sort of is why we drew the conclusion that they've installed whatever was purchased, because why would you have footings? Why would you go through the process of having all the footings inspected if there were yet more pieces of equipment to install? But to everyone's point, we don't know what they bought. We don't know what the final site plan that was agreed upon, because there's different versions of the site plan. And they have yet to give us the final version of the site plan that was provided to the county for
And to
inspection.
Jared's point, that's why he wants that list, right, Jared?
Yeah, that's why we need the list of
Right.
what they, can we get that from playgroundequipment.com?
Yes,
Of
I
their
believe,
purchase order? Or
yes.
Can
What are we-
can I make a comment from a construction standpoint? He's absolutely right. Because I watched them when they came in with their backhoe with the auger, where they dug the holes for the footings, where they put in the tubes, and where they poured the concrete. And the county inspector will look at that and go, the tube was installed vertically, the hole was the right depth, the tube was the right diameter, and the concrete that was poured was the right mix for the grade. Those were installed correctly. They didn't put the equipment in properly on top of them. So those footings, whether they were installed correctly or not, are going to have to come back out. Or you're going to have to talk to the manufacturer and see if there's a way that they can disconnect the superstructure of that particular piece of equipment from all of the footings so they can put it in properly. Yeah, the footings were installed properly. I've watched it. I've done that before. They were installed properly. Problem is, that's where properly stopped.
So what is the next steps to find out about this equipment? Because we talked about this on July 20th. It's been now over a month. Where is that equipment? Here's my problem. Okay, I'm going to speak now because I've got a lot of things here. We specifically said that whoever you hire as a project manager cannot be associated. We're not going to buy gear from them. You agreed and you said Sandra is not associated with a playground. We're not going to be buying things from her. She's a third-party project manager that is working for Grand Manners. Then we got 2 quotes from Sandra's company to fix the playgrounds for $330,000 and for $92,000. So I've been asking this for 2 months. Who is project managing this job for CROA? Does anyone here know that answer?
I think it's been a dynamic answer, to be honest with you, Jared. It's this, we have learned that this playground stuff is a very niche market.
But 1 month ago, we said, we need a project manager. You volunteered Grand Manor Services to provide a project manager. It turns out that project manager is Sandra. We talked to that she doesn't work. You said this very clearly, and everyone can watch the video of what you said at the last board meeting. She does not work for a manufacturer that we are going to purchase from. I have not been able to communicate, but the board can't communicate with her. We're not communicating with her. She's not communicating with us. I'm trying to figure out, the reason I had to call this meeting and make everyone come here tonight was to find out who is responsible for this with Grand Manners. You yourself, and I'm not picking on you personally, you're the one who told all of us, I'm providing a project manager at our cost. You talked about that with Stacy. I'm asking again, who is that person?
Sandra can be that person, but I don't know that I said necessarily that it wasn't going to be a playground expert.
I can read your words.
Sandra's a
if you want me
playground,
to say that.
Sandra, I even said jam and play. I mean, I said the name of the company that she is the owner and president of.
Yeah, and I asked a very specific question because there was some, that caused some uncertainty, if you remember, and we went back and forth probably 5 or 10 minutes. And I remember asking a very specific question that said, given the fact that she is a vendor, is she really going to be a project manager for CROA, looking out first and foremost for the interests of CROA?
And what she's done at this point is given us $400,000 worth of quotes. That's not okay. I'm not interested, and I will not, from my seat, allow us to go with Jam and Play for this project. She's worked herself out of this as a competitor. So I hope we didn't waste the best installer on hiring them as a project manager, because that would be a waste. But it makes
I
no
don't think
sense
that the
to hire.
time, Jared, I don't think the time's been wasted because we're not experts on playgrounds. We've had to educate ourselves on.
No, but we
Mr.
asked you to
Control.
hire someone that is a month ago.
And the time that Sandra's put in is on the clock and on our dime. You haven't paid for anything.
I understand.
And asking Sandra to have Larry, her turf guy, give us a bid only educated the board on what we're about to be in for. We're not necessarily saying to you tonight, that's the only one and only proposal you're going to get. That's the bid, that's the number, hire Sandra.
My original question, though, was, it's been a month since we asked for the quote from the playground, the invoice from the manufacturer. It's been a month since we've asked for a lot of this stuff. And I asked for daily updates starting August 9th. 40% of those have been missed. We're not getting the daily updates that we as a board have collectively asked for eventually. I'm trying to figure out who is responsible for this on Grand Manor's side. And you're still not answering that question. We need to know who is the individual that's going to be letting us know every day what's happening.
And we still don't apparently have the answer to whether you hired her as a project manager for CROA. Do we have a contract for her to do that? If so, Tom's here, so he can speak the conflict of interest. They shouldn't be giving us bids if that's the case.
We didn't vote on your election. There's no vote, right?
No.
We didn't. Yeah, so
You
there's
haven't
no,
hired
No.
We didn't vote on.
Sandra being the project manager. So that's,
Correct.
yeah, I'm just saying.
No,
So there isn't one.
I agree, but
Yeah.
we were told that they contracted with a project manager.
I'm asking, when are the bids going to go out? When are the bids going to go out? And when it's been 2 months since we terminated the contract with Phoenix Works. When are the bids going to go out for completion? Who's writing that RFP? When is the bid site walk going to be? These are questions that we should know from when you said the project manager is going to take over, and that was July 20th. If you don't have the answers now, that's a fine thing to say. But what I need to know is, when are we going to get those answers? Because I am asking every single day. The board is sick of me on this, and I'm sick of me on this, but I don't know how else to get answers. I had to call a public meeting so that I can ask Grand Manors here what's going on. We still don't have an answer. If you want to add anything to this about
I don't
when
have
the
a,
bids are going
there's
out
not,
for
there is not a
completion.
formal agreement between Gray Manors and Sandra.
So
Okay.
we're at nowhere.
That was the directive that was given. We need that to happen this week. We need to find someone, maybe not this week, but we need to find someone that someone is paying. You volunteered the services. If it's vendor services, that's fine. We need someone to be accountable for this, because it's a little bit Lauren, it's a little bit you, it's a little bit Sandra, who nobody has ever met or spoken to. Someone needs to be responsible for this.
So I can commit that by the end of day Friday, the board will have in their possession a copy of an agreement between Grand Manors and the project manager. I'm hoping it's Sandra. That's who I want.
But what will that agreement, what will it be?
For
What do
her,
you want in the
we-
agreement?
the concept is that we want someone separate and apart from the turf installer and the playground equipment installer to be the eyes and ears for Grand Manors and CROA to lead the RFP process, to compare the bids, come back to the board with their recommendation, then be engaged in the oversight of the contractors doing the work, agreeing to whether or not we should pay because the work's completed or not.
So who's gonna pay for the extra, all this extra money that it's gonna cost to fix Spring Park and fix
We
the
are.
turf at Long Meadow that that has to
Everyone in
be
this room
ripped
will have
up.
to be paid for that.
That's
There's
it.
a handout online.
I see.
Okay, so Friday we will have that, and this will be the person that we can reach out to so that we're not burdening staff with this project. We will have that on Friday.
Correct.
Because we still have these questions of when are bids going out, and this is who should be handling that. We're no closer than we were a month ago, which is the frustration.
Greg, you still have your hand up? Mr. Beeline?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
So-
So sorry to interrupt the I had it up a while ago. I know it's hard to see it, but if we can back up for a second, I appreciate the sentiment of, hey, we need to focus on how to go forward. And that's clearly a big piece of this, but I think going forward, we got to look back as to what went wrong. Can someone explain to me a little bit more how we came on Phoenix Works? And I'm going to ask a loaded question because, you know, as I'm sitting here as a layman doing research on them, they don't have a website. They're done in Bradstreet. Registration is for janitorial services. They are listed as a real estate property management company that does less than $600,000 of revenue per year, which for a business is not a lot considering how much were we going to contract them for just in one job to do these playgrounds. They've got no social media presence to show any kind of work that they've done. The sun does not rise and set on social media, but a lot of companies that are reputable are going to advertise what they've got. And when I go in the Orange County Clerk of Court list, there are 17 separate cases over the past 15 years with the CEO involving things such as foreclosure, breach of contract, breach of agreement and contract, foreclosure, breach of contract, violence, mortgage foreclosure. How did we come on these guys? I'd like to know what kind of background check we did on these companies and vetting of these companies to ever think that, I mean, I'm sitting here for 15 minutes, not spending a dime on Google, and it would never occur to me to have these guys install playgrounds. How did we come on them?
And they're also dissolved too now, right? Correct? There was.
Well, and that's a great point. So that I look on the Sunbiz thing. Yes, the Phoenix Work name is dissolved and was dissolved earlier this year, but they're reconstituted. The CEO has had 14 different companies over 10 years, which are dissolved, redissolved, which to me, again, kind of throws up a red flag of, is he avoiding litigation? Is there a reason he's opening and closing companies so much? You're spot on, Charles. I'm trying to figure out how we came on these guys.
So we did talk about this at the very beginning of the meeting, and I wasn't at the board at the time, but I understand they did other work for us. Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong. They did other work in Celebration that was quality work, and they were already a reputable contractor that was doing work in the town, and they were selected with other bids. They bid with other bidders, and they were selected because of their reputation of other work that they've done in town.
Doing
Not
what
to
other
take
kind of
out
work is
anything
my
you're saying.
question. Doing
What else
what
is
other
there?
kind of work?
Pavilion, they did tons of
Let's
sidewalk.
start over again, because I think you were talking over Greg. Natalie's gonna answer you, Greg.
My God, I have a laundry list. They redid the Hippodrome, Arbor Pavilion. They redid the Aquila Loop Pavilion. I mean, I could open up my 2.0.
You
But
still
they
have
were
playground?
playground
You still have
installers.
playground or no?
No.
It was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Do we have contracts for all of that?
I mean, they were smaller.
Do we have contracts for all of those projects that they were assigned and completed?
You don't have to unless they're over a certain amount.
Did any of those actually involve construction or were they simply maintenance and repair?
These are all fair questions, but I just, in being completely respectful, this doesn't help us get to these playgrounds being finished. We all agree that Phoenix Works isn't a good contractor now. We fired them. We need to focus on getting this done. We're not going to use them again. So everything Greg said is true. We all see that, but at this point, they were chosen because they were reputable and were doing other work.
Well, and Jared, I'll say this and then I'll respectfully shut up, is you're going to go into another vendor. How do I know and have confidence as a resident that the process there for you guys vetting vendors that we're going to go pick the next one, because now we're in a scramble to figure this out, isn't going to be some other company that has 17 cases against them just in Orange County alone, half of which are for fraud and foreclosures.
I'll say,
So-
we're not gonna do that because I'm sitting here screaming at Grand Manners that we need to get a project manager that doesn't have a conflict of interest. So I'm trying to do that. We're all trying to do that. I'm not trying to talk back to you, Greg. I'm just saying we're actively doing this for that purpose so that we don't get in this situation again. So that we
No, no.
don't hire the project manager to then hire her company to do the work. That's not happening.
And Jared, I appreciate you calling the meeting. This is long overdue, so thank you.
One quick question, in the Monday matters that comes out from Grand Manners, it says very specifically, the project manager is working on permitting for Spring Park. Who's telling the truth here tonight? Do we
Great
have
question.
a project manager or not? Because we as residents were told we do. You have said we don't, but at the last board meeting,
It's a work in progress.
then why?
Is it
do
though?
we
Has
tell
anyone
the
filed a permit?
residents this?
No, so, yeah.
Why do we get this kind of communications? This is where our frustration boils over. We're told you have a project manager. You communicated to us. Grand Manners did. And now we hear tonight we don't, but at the last board meeting, we were told we did. Get the story straight. Because you're lying.
So I do have these questions that need to go to a project manager and I will send them to the board and we can add and subtract from that list. And we will get this to you by Friday so that whoever is hired can start on Monday with daily reports. And these are the questions that we have. I also will make a recommendation of what we need in daily reports, being milestone updates, and I'll put this in writing, a timeline of what's happening over the next 5 days, any action items that are needed from the board if we needed to approve quotes or anything, and a general schedule and any changes that get made to that schedule so that we don't just change the schedule and not tell anyone. We need to be told this is pushed out or this is moved up. So I will put this all in writing to the board and we'll have that to you by Friday. I don't,
To who?
to the board, for the board to
Right.
review so that everyone can provide their input and then get it to Grand Manners by Friday. I don't know what else to ask here because it seems like we have, I understand there have been site visits and stuff, but we haven't had anyone responsible for the last month. So we need to start that on Monday.
And I think too, from a board action perspective, we need to get it calendared, right? So if you need something from us, let's call the emergency meeting, get whatever we need, because obviously it's not gonna make it for tomorrow, right? So let's just continue again to Gary's point, we just need to get some attention to this.
I would ask that based on what Greg has just said, that any project manager or company that you hire going forward for any project, not just the parks, anything, that there's a background check, because if in fact there was violence, you're putting that company in a park
I will
or by a
say,
pool.
I do want to say to Roger's credit now, because I've just beat him up for this whole meeting. We have another issue coming up tomorrow with pools. And he brought to our attention that of the 3 bids we got in discovery, they found that 2 of them were not licensed for a specialty contractor license. And so he raised the red flag on that. So that is something that we are starting to pay attention to. And I can't explain the past. I can just say that's something that was caught today. Cindy pointed that out. Roger addressed that. So that's something that's moving
I'm
ahead.
just asking for the
Yeah.
vetting process to be done also.
Yes.
So where are we?
So can we commit, I think the other pain point is the communications to the community. What can we do going forward now? Again, being transparent, being honest, being candid, over communicating. What are the thoughts around
So
how
what,
can we continue to keep this?
if we give the project manager access to the monday.com and we just publish that, we can even publish that on the website. So as changes are made in Monday, it will auto-populate on the website. So
Lori,
they can,
take a second and explain to them what you're talking about. It's different than Monday Matters.
monday.com is a project tracking tool that we've implemented in town hall. There is one that can be dedicated just to this project, that the project manager can have credentials, log in, update, make changes, make comments, and then the community can see where things are, whether it's done, working on it, in progress, waiting for something to happen.
Like they do with Lot D and everything else. It'll have its own separate place on
It's
the
a-
website,
its own-
right?
Well,
That
we
means
can
you're not
embed it
doing
in,
what
we
they
can
say.
embed it into the website.
And yeah,
For us, it's gonna have its own app, so we can
So residents will be able to go in, self-service, check in.
Yeah.
It's real time, right?
Available to the community?
It just launched.
It just launched to the board today or yesterday.
Yeah, today.
What about our regular celebration.fl.us that
It's integrated within that, is what you're
It will
saying,
be
right?
embedded in that
page of
so
that.
that,
Will
so they
be.
will see it, yes.
Yeah, obviously, we want to give feedback before.
could we maybe,
Sorry, sorry.
no,
By
could we maybe send out, like we send out email blasts to the community when the pool's closed, when something's wrong, the dog park, can we make just a dedicated communication to the community in regard to just the playground?
Well, I think you have to be
No.
careful too with the communications. Again, it needs to be the right message too,
Right.
right? Not fluff, not like, what is happening? What is the action? What are we getting to? What are
Needs
the
to be
next
coming
steps?
from the project manager.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I think, yeah, I mean, that's spot on.
So
That's
that's-
why I'm saying, if we give them access to monday.com, they can set up the dashboard that's available to the residents as well. So that,
The Spring Park Playground dashboard right here.
that
was in our board packet last
Yeah.
month.
no, it was in your Monday.
Monday.
So what we can do is we can publish this and the dashboard on the website.
And there'll be some, do they allow, when you embed it in a website, do that allow the user to drill down? Probably might not know the answer to that yet.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be okay.
I want to say this just so that everybody here knows. Currently, on the program software that she's talking about, the playground date for completion is October 14th. I don't think that's a great date, but I don't know if that's a great date. I don't know if we can improve that, but just don't be shocked when you open that up. Just don't open that up and then jump on the Facebook pages and say, now it's October 14th for this. Here, I told it to you here. That's what it's forecast for.
So I want to post it now.
I don't know what that's based
I
on.
would not publish that without the project manager.
Right, so the one that gets published will be a realistic timeline.
Will be the one from the project manager.
I'll take the over and under on that.
On the timeline, is it going to start with hiring a project manager?
No, that will already have happened. That will have happened by Friday.
One more question, as we start obviously going down the paths of what we need to fix and the costs, how is that, I know we're obviously in the budget discussions, how is that going to trickle down into
These are
that?
reserve items.
It's all gonna be out of
Yeah.
reserve, so there's nothing from a,
So you were budgeted in reserves for Spring Park Playground between the turf and the playground equipment in the $400,000 range in 2021. So even if you went with the bid that you got from Jam and Play as like a rough bid, you would still be within your scope there. And you would still be within your scope of your budgeted amount in the reserve study for Long Meadow as well for the turf and grading fix in Long Meadow.
I also want to say with the project manager, we probably need to give them a week. So it's not going to be Monday. We're not going to hire someone Friday and Monday there's going to be a schedule up there. It'll be at least a week for us to let them figure out all these questions that we send on Monday to get the answers to those, which will help them populate this calendar. So just realistic expectations.
So 2 weeks.
And since this mentions a project manager is working on the permitting, whoever this mysterious person is, are they going to be told to stop until you hire one?
They're not working.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, whoever, who
I
is
appreciate the
this?
sarcasm.
I just don't want to see this get delayed further. One project manager that entire Friday and whoever this mysterious person is, and we've got permits going all over.
Well, it was our collective understanding that we already had a project manager. So we all learned here together that we don't.
Ah, gotcha. Now I understand. And they're not working on getting permits.
No.
Okay. Yeah, so nothing is happening.
I love the idea about the project manager and the updates through the service that Lauren has suggested. I do fear that you know how everybody gets a different message, or maybe their style isn't what the style of the board would be, or the board hasn't went out to look to make sure they did what they did. So I'm just gonna say that as that project manager updates something and says it's done, and one resident goes out and finds it's not.
We'll still have Lauren and Brian and the other people who do this daily
Okay, so somebody,
having touch points on this. Yeah.
I will be heavily involved with the project.
Yeah,
I just
and
don't want it to be more problems for you when somebody that you hired says it's done and it's not.
and you're right, something like Back Porch is a very big community. Feel free to share it there, but please also share it with Grand Manners
Yeah.
at the same time, please.
Well, and I would take it a step further and just everybody has a different interpretation of things, the way like the writing styles and stuff like that. I would ask that the community be very careful on how they reword something that they may have seen or written to make sure that it's actually as it was intended. So it would probably be better rather than drawing your conclusions and regurgitating it.
I don't think we're in any position to force the community.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's, if Lauren and her group sent out a communication, I would say, post it wherever you can, comment however you want, you know, but,
We're not
you know,
in any- Yeah.
no, I'm not censoring, don't,
Yeah, we're
I'm
not
just
in any
saying,
position.
yeah, I'm not censoring, I'm just saying, yeah, because we don't want this,
Can we,
we're trying to
can
get on
we
the right
just have
path
an
here.
explanation about the cement slab at Spring Park? Exactly what is that cement slab?
So when they were pulling out the original equipment that was in there, the turf that was covering part of that, we did not know that there was concrete under there. And as they were pulling it out, there was concrete on half of it and not concrete on the rest of it. And that was where the equipment was originally planned to go, which meant to properly do the underlayment and the safety padding and then the turf, they would have to pull out the concrete. Phoenix was trying to avoid doing that by moving where the pieces were, and they just wanted to add extra turf on top of it to make it cheaper and easier. Which is one of the reasons why we were having so much back and forth on the Spring Park playground, because that's not what
They
we,
wanted another $40,000.
yeah, they wanted another $40,000 and we didn't want to do that. So
But we don't know why it was put there in the first
we don't
place.
know why.
we do.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
We were here when that park was built.
Yep.
That concrete was the original walkway between the original pieces of equipment that were installed back in 1999 and 2000. The original equipment that was installed there is wood. We have pictures of the original equipment that was wood. It was a concrete walkway, a curved walkway that went through the center of the park. And all of the equipment was on either side of the walkway so that people could basically play in the wood chips. When they decided to take that equipment out and replace it with the equipment you guys took out, the board decided that they wanted to put artificial turf over it. So rather than pull the concrete out, they backfilled with crushed stone in between the concrete, put artificial turf and a cork over the top of it so that you had a smooth surface. That concrete has been there since day one. It was there before the pool was there.
Well, there we go. Thank you. Now we know they would have ripped us off even more.
well, I was mainly concerned that it was covering up something that, you know, if they dug it up, then it would cause more expense, but sounds like not, so.
Enough of it's been around since the start. Can answer those questions if somebody would just ask.
Yes.
You know, ask the residents for communications.
To their point, is there some sort of documentation about town facilities and all of the different things that are perhaps under them? And what we might run into in the future, because this is only going to happen again and again and again. And while it's very helpful to come to knowledgeable residents, that is not always the most fruitful place to gather that information. Is it documented anywhere? Great.
CDD has all the original plats for every square inch of the town because they had to put the infrastructure in.
We should
I
know.
don't know if
things
Greg
like
is
this.
still out there and whether they have access to them, but I know when I was chairing the board in 2004, we had to go back and refer to those plats because we were making changes. There were some villages were going to be moving things.
What was, I am here. What was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it from the audience.
Still have access to all the original plats of all of the villages that should be part of the CDD platting process and the approval as the various pieces of the village were put together.
That big attic with all the.
We're
Yeah.
we're digitizing all those records now. I'm sure it's up there somewhere. If there's a request from CROA on some specific stuff, please send it over to Angel and me and we'll dig through it.
Thanks, Greg.
That can be another task for the project manager. So are we clear on what our action items are here going forward? You're gonna hire a project manager by the end of the week. We as a board are gonna come up with the questions that we have for them and then kind of an outline of what we're looking for in daily reports. I've said this before, if the daily report is there's nothing to report, that's okay. There are days where nothing's gonna happen. But I have found that when someone realizes they have to write, there's nothing to report for the fourth day, they're gonna do something so that they have something to report. So that was the reason for daily reports, so that there's forward motion continually happening. And we will have that list amongst ourselves for the rest of the week and have that to you by end of day Friday.
And then another week before.
And then,
Actions,
yes,
the
at
ball
least
starts
another
rolling,
week until
yeah.
the project manager gets their feet under them and can start reporting. So it will be 2 weeks of no news on the playground.
But that's good news.
Yes.
But not that we hadn't had this meeting.
So
Yes.
any other questions from
Thank
the
you,
board?
Jared, for calling this meeting and getting us to this point. It's greatly appreciated.
Any other questions from the audience?
I've got a suggestion, just from a legal perspective. Yeah, sorry. Just from a legal perspective, while you're working in parallel with finding your project manager, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to also ask Tom to start working on some terms and conditions for a draft contract with whomever you're going to hire as the actual playground company, to start looking at what went wrong, what went right, so that we're not sitting here waiting for, him to do his due diligence at the end of the process. Let's see what that template looks like now, so everybody on the board has a chop on what the expectations are.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Greg, we already have a standard contract template and it should work for this. And the only thing that really needs to be added are the scope of work and the other details about exactly what they're going to do. Of course, the board would like me to review the finalized version before we're going to sign it. So, but the template that we already have in place should work pretty well for what I expect.
As a general contract thing, we need to start looking at liquidated damages too, because the way everything just keeps getting pushed is ridiculous. We can talk about that separately, but that's something that we should consider in our
I'll plan
larger contract.
I'll plan another C, which is a performance bond.
Sure. Yeah. There's costs associated with that. though,
Yes, there are. It
versus-
costs more,
Versus not.
but then you
But
protect yourself on the end.
yes, for certain values. So yeah, we'll talk about that at the board meeting.
So then everything that Greg said about this company and the lien they have on our property can help us with that lien.
I'm not worried about that. Are
Correct.
you worried about the lien?
I'm not worried about it.
No?
No.
Okay.
He did it because he was mad. Okay, I have nothing else.
Anybody? Charles? Phil?
Thanks for
Jim?
calling me.
Jared says no. I'm a no. Anybody from the audience?
I want to say thank you to Jim too. I'm sorry, I kept saying Jared, it was the two of you who called this meeting. Thank
Well,
you.
It was his vision. I just listened to him and agreed with him. And
I don't need any credit. I just wanted answers. Sick of email.
We're getting there. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right.
all in favor? Aye.